Hi, Roy here, and welcome again to another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garden, where we talk about all the news from the Trump administration and the Republicans, and as well as some of the Democrats as well. And we've got a lot of late breaking news, so I want to jump right into this. Some of the late breaking news that's going on, and this stuff just kind of broke yesterday afternoon. I record these podcasts typically on late Friday night or Saturday morning, depends how I feel. But here's what's going on. The Supreme Court is going to hear if Trump's birthright citizenship order violates the Constitution of the United States. As you know, Trump has been fighting and even tried to do executive actions which weren't upheld, that just because a child is born within the U.S. borders, as guaranteed by the Constitution, they're not U.S. citizens. The Constitution says that they are. But Trump says, nah, they're not, especially if they're born from, immigrants that are crooked and drug dealers and gun runners and everything else, and they're not U.S. citizens. Crap on them. That's not possible. So that's what the Supreme Court's going to hear. If a child is born in the United States, immigrants, they are automatically U.S. citizens. Trump says, no, they're not. So this is going to be a very, very interesting opinion that's going to be issued by the court. And as you know, even though we have a very conservative U.S. Supreme Court, the Constitution says very plainly that if a child is born in the United States, they are automatically U.S. citizens. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, the other thing that is late breaking as of yesterday afternoon is a federal judge has agreed to release the grand jury testimony on the Epstein files. And there may be some very interesting notes in all of those documents. And so those will be released to the general public hopefully soon. And we'll have to see what happens there. So those are two late-breaking news items that have been going on in this wonderful world of ours. So we'll have to see what happens. And, of course, I've got the other breaking news that it has happened this past week on the call that you're now seeing. So let's go ahead and get into our wonderful show. So President Trump, of course, we're going to start right off with him. Now, Barabella, who is Trump's physical physician. When I say physical, he gave him a physical exam, but this is Trump's physician, Barabella, and he said in a statement that Trump's physical exam, as I spit that out, included advanced imaging that is standard for an executive, a physical in Trump's age group. Now, Barabella concluded that the cardiovascular and abdominal imaging was perfectly normal. The purpose of this imaging was preventive, to identify issues early, to conform to the overall health, and ensure that he maintains a long-term vitality and function, the doctor wrote. Now, what this is all about is the doctor released a statement that said that Donald Trump had a recent MRI, and of course, that's a little bit unusual that he continues to get these. And of course, every time he does, Caroline Leavitt, his press secretary, said this is normal procedure and it's just a part of his yearly exam. Well, how many yearly exams is this guy going to have? What's even more odd is that Donald Trump, who had the MRI, didn't even know where the MRI was conducted on his body. Watch this clip.
They asked about my MRI. MRIs are very,
Governor Walz asked you to release the MRI records.
Will you tell us what it was
Governor
for?
Walz, you mean the incompetent Governor Walz? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What would please? Can you tell us what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it.
So, as I said, the White House released the doctor's memo. Now, which is weird, is even though in the world of transparency when it comes to the president's health, this memo that was released by the White House physician was kind of all over the place and very, very generic as to why Trump is getting all these MRIs recently and everything else that was going on. As I said, it's said right in there in the document, this was part of his routine physical examination, but he had declined until just this past Monday to detail why Trump had an MRI during his physical in October at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on or what part of his body. And of course, President Trump, he doesn't even know what part of the body that he had an MRI on, which is weird. And of course, he goes on to say, but my brain is perfectly normal, as you saw in that clip. And I'm so dang smart and I'm acing everything. There's nothing wrong with me. So we'll just have to wait and see what's going on there. Just an interesting comment. Now, President Donald Trump also claimed during a recent press conference that 0 illegal aliens have entered the United States in the past 6 months while speaking to reporters during a cabinet meeting, the one that you know that showed him falling asleep several times, but we won't talk about that. You know, he talks a lot about Sleepy Joe, but he doesn't talk about Sleepy Trump. No. Media, you can't be talking about that. And I'm going to see that you pay for it if you do. So anyway, this past Tuesday, for 6 months in a row now, he said that 0 illegal aliens have been admitted into the United States. Illegal boarding crossings across the U.S. and Mexico border have plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded, he said. So a total of 65,135 individuals are reported to be held at United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention centers as of November 16th, 2025. That number is extremely high. And again, which was a significant rise from the 39,000 in custody when Trump took office in January. So as you can see, they're just rounding up everybody and anything of people who happen to be not of white skin. Is basically what it is. White privilege is now the dominant thing here in the United States. If you don't have white skin, you're not white privilege. If you're from any other country and you got brown skin, whatever, you're going to get the hell out of here. We're going to ship you out. I don't care if you're a U.S. citizen or not. You have no right to be here. So that's why that number is extremely high. And I've got another story about a young person that just graduated from college, got a degree that they deported. You know, this is getting extremely out of hand. So Trump's claim followed a Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's, and we all know about Kristi Noem, don't we? Yeah, of course we do. Here she is. Yes, Kristi Noem posted in which she said she recommended a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies during a meeting with the president on this past Monday. For 6 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens, I've just said, was admitted in the United States. No, they're all hammering on this. 0 illegal aliens. You know, even though the Statue of Liberty says, bring me your poor and you know, you're underprivileged, and, you know, the gift that France gave us so many years ago, you know, that doesn't mean anything evermore. And so she wants a full travel ban. And, of course, she goes on to say our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom. Not to foreign invaders, but to slaughter our heroes, suck our land dry of hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them, not one, she wrote. I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies, as I just stated. I want to keep emphasizing that because, you know, probably less than 2% of these so-called illegal immigrants are exactly that. Most of them are U.S. citizens, have been here for years working, and all of a sudden they are now illegal. And we just had a case where ICE went into a school and took children and picked them up. Parents didn't even know it. They're taking kids now out of classrooms and deporting them, and mom and dad don't even know about that. Or they're taking mom and dad out of homes and just leaving the children there. You know, we don't care about your kids. Your mom and dad are illegal, so we're going to take them. And these kids are just screaming and hollering, and not a soul is there to take care of them. So this is getting a little out of hand, in my opinion. Of course, this is a lot of commentary, and I'm entitled in my First Amendment rights to give my opinion. So anyway, she went on to declare a national emergency at the southern border during his first day in office in January 20th, as you're well aware of. However, the data does show that 73.6% of current detainees have no criminal convictions. Did you hear me? 73.6 of the current detainees that ICE is holding in these detention camps all across the U.S. have zero criminal records. And I have talked about that so many times before about, none of these people that they're rounding up, at least 76.6% of them, 73.6% of them have no criminal records. So why are they picking them up? Because Trump has ordered, as well as Christie, that at least 3,000 immigrants or people of brown skin be picked up, regardless of what their criminal records are. So this is why it's scary, is, they're just picking up these people left and right, which is going to lead me to my next piece of news here. And folks, this is extremely sad. This young lady here, Babson College has instructed, where she graduated, faculty and staff to provide academic and community support to a student who was deported to Honduras when she tried to fly home to visit her family for Thanksgiving. This, folks, did make national news. Her name is Amy Lucia Lopez Bozola. She's just 19 years old, and she was detained at a Boston Logan International Airport on November 20th when she tried to board a flight to surprise her family in Texas. This is so damn sad. She was sent to a Honduras camp 2 days later, despite a court order that basically prohibited her and the government from moving her out of the Massachusetts or of the United States, according to her attorney. Now, Lopez, whose family immigrated from Honduras when she was just 7 years old, is now staying with her grandparents in Honduras. The college's Dean of Campus Life, Kathleen Kabazazi, informed faculty and staff of Lopez's detention on Tuesday. Our ability to share specifics is limited by law, but please know that our focus remains on supporting the student and their family, as well as the well-being of our community, the dean wrote in a message made public Monday. Relevant faculty and staff have been informed so they can provide appropriate academic and community support in the student's absence. Lopez, which she was a freshman, is studying business at Babson, which has 2,800 undergraduate students at its campuses in Wellesley, just west of Boston. Now, it's just, again, breaks my heart that you see this kind of stuff. She has done nothing wrong except that she wanted to go see her parent. That's all this really was. And when you're dealing with ICE, all laws and due process is thrown out the window. These people have been operating independently with Noam and Trump, and laws don't apply to ICE, and if you're a minority in this country now, a brown skin, if you're not a white privileged person, you need to watch out. So this is what's going on. And this young person here, she got her education, was working so hard, wanted to fly to Texas to see her parents, and you saw what happened. So, again, just pretty sad. Now, again, as we move on, speaking of immigration, again, federal immigration authorities this week have been conducting enhanced operations in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. A United States official told CBS News they're targeting a region with a large population of the Somali immigrants. Now, as you know, President Donald Trump again told the world and what he thought about Somalis. Now, they're all crooked stinkers and no good people, and they have no right being here either. So President Trump often rallies against these Somalis. The surge by Immigration and Customs Enforcement is expected again to target individuals in the Twin City again, they're just moving all over across the U.S., especially those who are typically Democratic in their voting privilege. You kind of notice this, that ICE just goes to states that happen to be leaning Democratic. They're not attacking any places that are Republican held. Here in Florida, they have been showing up in the Miami area a little bit, and now they're starting to target Orlando, which is somewhat Democratic. But you can see the pattern here. It's just this is all politics. It really is. But getting back to this situation in the St. Paul area, now the exact scope and duration of the operation again have not been clear. The crackdown comes as Mr. Trump castigates in Minnesota's large community of Somali immigrants, regularly pointing to the country, often in incendiary terms, as a justification for his administration's sweeping mass deportation campaign. Now, during the cabinet meeting this past Tuesday, Mr. Trump called people from Somalia garbage. He did say that and claimed that they contribute to nothing. I don't want them in our country. I'll be honest with you, the president said Tuesday. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks. Now, maybe the country that they are from does stink, but that's why they're here in the United States, to get away from that country. And again, many of these Somalis who are in Minnesota have been there for years and years. They have contribute greatly to the economic base of the state. They have a large shopping venue there, and they're not bothering one damn soul. But Trump, of course, is making up this thing that all the money that the Somalis are making are going back into their country and to, terrorists and all of that. So, again, we just don't know what all the bases there is. So, again, this terrible, terrible stuff. And we'll have to see what happens. Okay, but they're already rounding up a bunch of people. Now, in other news, former Honduras President Juan Orlando Hernandez, he's this guy's in the news too. Well, he was sentenced last year to 45 years of prison for his role in drug trafficking operation that moved hundreds of tons of cocaine to the United States. Well, he was released from prison. Why? Because of a pardon from President Donald Trump. Officials confirmed that the U.S. Bureau of Prisons inmate website showed that Hernandez was released from the U.S. Penitentiary. Hazleton in West Virginia on Monday said so, and a spokesman for the Bureau of Tuesday actually confirmed his release. Now, his wife, Anna Garcia, thanked Trump for pardoning Hernandez via the social media platform X on Tuesday. After almost 4 years of pain, of waiting, and difficult challenges, my husband, Juan Orlando Hernandez, has been released from prison. Isn't that just wonderful that this has happened? And of course, you kind of wonder why Trump would release this guy when he's so big on drugs coming into the United States. But yeah, he was released. So you got all of these wonderful things going on. There's another person that was pardoned too. We'll get into him in just a minute. But getting back to this guy, I mean, it was proven, and with strong evidence, and and he was convicted, that Trump's starting to release all these people. And why Trump pardoned this guy, we don't have a clue. I think it's just because of the Biden administration's the one to put him in jail. And anything right now, Trump's on this big rampage of anything that Joe Biden has done in the past presidency, because he's so upset with him because what they've done to him. He's just going to reverse it, and he don't care what they've been doing. Now he's on this auto pen kick too, with saying that that's all illegal. That Joe Biden didn't even know half the things that were being done by executive order because there was an auto pen, and that's another story. But again, getting back to Hernandez, Trump was asked, of course, by the press why he pardoned Hernandez and on Air Force One. And he said, well, because many of the people in Honduras wanted him released. He said they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was president of the country. And he says, and they also, it was all done by the Biden administration. It was a setup. That's why he was jailed, Trump said. And I looked at the facts and I agreed with them. Now, whether he actually did that or not, we don't know. And, of course, Hernandez's attorney said in an email statement that he could not share the former president's current locations. Speaking of where Hernandez went once he got out of prison, he said he's just glad that the ordeal is over. And on behalf of the president, Hernandez and his family said they thanked President Trump for correcting this injustice. again, this guy has a long history of drug dealing and illegal activities and taking bribes and drug trafficking. But, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, whatever the case is, because he was, jailed by the Biden administration, we're just going to go ahead and, release these guys. And here's another guy, and this is weird because this guy is a Democrat that was also just pardoned. Trump has just pardoned or commuted the sentences of just hundreds and hundreds of people. But for the first time, and we still don't know why, in fact, the Republicans are upset, this guy was just pardoned by Donald Trump. And he is a Democrat. And this did raise the eyebrows of the Republicans. The Republicans don't care if he pardons Republicans and gets them out of jail. That's just fine and dandy. But if you're going to pardon a Democrat, why the hell would you want to do that? Again, this is just all politics. So this gentleman that you are looking at is Henry Culliver, and he is a Democratic representative from the state of Texas. And this guy was jailed for bribery charges. Along with his wife. Now, again, in a Truth Social post announcing the preemptive pardon, Trump asserted that Sellier was unfairly targeted by the Biden administration because of the congressman's willingness to criticize the White House's immigration policies. He wanted to say Sleepy Joe went after the congressman and even the congressman's wonderful wife, Imelda, simply for speaking the truth, Trump posted. Sleepy Joe, yeah. And of course, we have seen Trump sleeping in cabinet meetings, but that's totally different. Now, again, even though this guy is a Democrat, and I just want you to know, he said that even though he thanked the president for his release, he is running for re-election on the Democratic ticket. He is a conservative Democrat, but a Democrat nevertheless. So, if Trump thought that him being released, he was going to change party affiliation, that's not going to happen. So, again, he's releasing all these people because they were all, investigated and found guilty and were imprisoned by the Biden administration. So he's just totally on a rampage right now to undo anything and everything that was done by the Biden administration. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this stuff going on. Now, I don't know who's working behind the scenes for Donald Trump and getting all this, because I can guarantee you Donald Trump has so much on his plate. He doesn't have time just to go down a list and say, okay, this person was imprisoned by the Biden administration, pardon him. This guy was in prison by the Biden administration, I'm going to pardon them, and so on and so forth. There's people behind the scenes who are digging this stuff up, and then they sit it on front of Trump's desk, and he just looks at it and signs off on it. I'm sure that's what's really happening. You can't sit there and tell me that, Trump is just going through and finding people that he can pardon. Now, of course, we all know that he stays up all night on his Truth Social doing rampages and putting out posts because the people see all that. He does do that. I don't know when this guy gets any sleep. I think he gets to sleep when he's on the camera and has to go through boring meetings. And, of course, the camera focuses on him dozing off. So maybe that's what it is. Anyway, let's get to our top story here on the Right Has Left podcast. And our top story, of course, is going to be, of course, what's going on with the investigation of these two people that were, unalived by Pete Hegseth and the military when they say that they're, doing this, all these boats are doing drug running operations. And of course, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and a top military commander are facing serious questions about why the United States on September 2nd killed survivors of a military strike against a suspected drug boat when the laws of war say survivors on the battlefield are supposed to be rescued. And, of course, Senator Mark Warner, one of the top Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said he wants more information on the controversial follow-up attack on the alleged Venezuela drug boat before weighing in on its legality. And in a briefing with Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, the media asked if he agrees with the Senate Intelligence Chair Tom Cotton on what the attack was lawful. He responded, "I think the video was very disturbing. I'm not going to weigh in on all the questions about lawful morality judgments until I get all the information," saying he can't think of a more serious accusation than war crimes. Now, the White House acknowledges that a second strike was ordered on a boat already hit by the military in the Caribbean Sea, and the media again has confirmed that the survivors from the initial strike were killed as a result. And just so you know, of course, I do have the video from the White House press secretary and her comments. And before I show you this clip, from Caroline Leavitt and her presser, you need to know two things. One, she only allowed hand-picked press representatives to ask the questions. And as you will see, when they ask the question, she doesn't even go off the cuff and tell them the reasons why this strike was issued and why the survivors were killed. She immediately goes to her notes and reads verbatim the response. So watch closely, because this whole thing was a total setup from the get-go. Watch this clip.
Clear. Does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
You said that the follow-up strike was lawful. What law is it that allows no survivors?
The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States interests. The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict.
So was the initial order from Secretary Hegseth, everyone be killed, and did that come from President Trump?
I saw that quoted in a Washington Post story. I would reject that the Secretary of War ever said that. However, the President has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them. And that's what this administration is doing.
Now, Democrats say that alone there could not be enough to suggest a war crime occurred. The laws of war require either side in a conflict to provide care for wounded and shipwrecked troops and or sailors, depending where the thing happens. Hegseth told Fox News the day after that he watched the operation unfold in real time, and he defended it was legal. He appears to be leaning on the same legal playbook carved out during the War on Terror, in which the United States justified killing people transporting weapons that he said posed a threat to the United States forces. He says, "We're going to conduct oversight and we're going to get to the facts," Senator John Roger Wicker said, the Republican chairman of the State Senate Armed Services Committee. And he said that we have to look at this very clearly and very closely and get all the facts. And of course, as you know, Pete Hegseth put out his own information on X. He says, we just need to, these people are terrorists and we just need to kill them all. And of course, as you look at this post, that's exactly what he was saying. That's over me here. So even Pete Hegseth, even though he's been, says, I didn't really order this, but, in fact that it did happen, we need to kill all these people anyway. And there is video of two people clinging to the boat. And we are just seeing certain clips of this, but this committee wants to release the full video which does show two survivors clinging for their lives on a piece of the boat, and of course they made a second sweep back and they killed them as well. So the bottom line on all of this is the fact of the matter is that who is telling the truth and who ordered what. All right, so as this investigation is going on, what you have here is now the Republicans after they watched the things and probably under pressure from Hegseth and the Trump administration, the Republicans are starting to say, well, maybe it was legal, from what we've seen here so far, maybe it was okay that they got killed. Where the Democrats are saying that this was totally illegal and it's a violation of the act of war, and we need to do deeper investigation here. So now the parties are starting to, maybe take a little bit of sides. Initially, and there are still some Republicans that question all this, but now some of the Republicans are starting to fall in line a little bit and say, See, you got to understand, how is Trump getting away with this? Because he is using a loophole in the law about terrorism, all right? He's calling these drug runners terrorists. And of course, we still have a lot more drugs than what these people are bringing in from Venezuela. We have more drugs coming in from Mexico and also on the Pacific side as well, from Asia and stuff. But he's targeting these people in the Caribbean and calling them terrorists. That's why he can use the military to shoot these boats down. And even though we're shooting these boats down, we still have not seen any evidence that they're actually carrying a large amounts of drugs and cocaine. We're just going on their word. When they shoot these boats up and blow them up, we don't see any evidence. We just go and say, they're drug runners. They're terrorists. They're bringing drugs in the country, so we're going to kill them all, as Pete Hegseth has said. So interesting facts here, folks. We just have to wait and see what happens. But you need to really understand that this stuff is going on. We don't see the evidence. And war crimes could possibly be committed when you're killing, survivors. As you know, and we can take this clear back to World War II, whatever. Even during, as much as we were at war with Japan and Germany on the high seas, when we blew up boats and there were people clinging for their lives on the sides of these boats, we still, as Americans, went and rescued them. And of course, even though they may have wound up in prison camps and stuff, we still picked them up. We just didn't go off on the side and take our machine guns and mow them all down or send bombs in and say, hey, there's still survivors there, kill them. No, we picked them up and gave them humanitarian care. So I don't think this administration wants to do that. They just want to get rid of them all. And this is where the fine line on the world court is if war crimes were committed. So, got to pay attention to that. All right, and other news going on. This gentleman right here, Brian Cole, he's a 30-year-old person living in Virginia. Well, in late breaking news, he was just arrested for possibly attempting to do some pipe bombing on the Republican as well as the Democratic national headquarters during the insurrection that happened in January. Again, as usual with Bondi and Patel, they did blame the game on the Biden administration for taking too much time to do the investigation to find this guy. But, by God, the Trump administration sure got on it and took care and found this guy, didn't they? Yeah. So that's Brian Cole, and there's the photograph to the right there of him possibly planting those pipe bombs. Now, he is alleged to be the guy who did plant those bombs in the DNC and the RNC headquarters I just mentioned during the January 6th insurrection. And so, we'll have to see what happens. It took a long time. They had to come up with a lot of facts to find this guy. But, hey, I'll give them credit if they, in fact, is the guy. I'm glad that they found the guy, and he's going to be prosecuted. So, I'll be transparent. If Bondi and Patel found this guy, and he is, in fact, the guy who's going to plant those pipe bombs and do some more destruction, good for them. Speaking of Kash Patel, oh my goodness, let's get into this too. So Kash Patel is again still in hot water as more information is coming about on him using FBI and taxpayer dollars to help escort his girlfriend's drunk friend home. Now, as you know, Kash Patel is in the news a lot because of the fact of the matter is that him and his girlfriend right here, well, as I said, first he was using the jet and taking his girlfriend to concerts. And then he was using FBI staff on taxpayer dollars, providing security for his girlfriend. Now, another thing has come out that, at a party, his girlfriend's friend got totally trashed and could not drive. And so he ordered the FBI to take her friend home, again, on taxpayer dollars. And of course, as they question all this, they're coming out and saying, no, he didn't do that. That's just all a bunch of crap. That never happened. This is all made up. This is just the Democrats trying to get rid of a good man. And of course, Donald Trump publicly is still standing behind Kash Patel. But behind the scenes, they're thinking it's about really maybe time for him to go. They're going to play the blame game all they want. But, his girlfriend, Alexis Witkins, she says, hey, you're just going after my boyfriend. This is not fair. This never happened. But you've got people who are talking, who are very much in the know, said, yes, it is, in fact, does happen. Kash Patel likes to tot and, flex his muscles and say, look at me, I'm so damn important. And honey, I'm just going to take care of you and I'll provide you security and everything else. So we'll have to see what happens there. Also, the news is Trump bonds. Yeah, when children of wealthy families reach adulthood, they often benefit from the large cash deposits from their parents in the form of a trust fund. Well, Donald Trump is now starting what's called Trump bonds. It's another way to get a leg up on less affluent peers who may receive nothing at all or even be expected to support their families. So he's very proud to be introducing Trump bonds. And so what would happen here would create accounts for all babies born in the United States over the next 4 years with a $1,000 deposit from the government that would accrue interest until the child reaches adulthood, or basically age 18. And then they could withdraw the money with the interest to put towards a down payment for a home or pay for their education or perhaps start a small business. Now, those are really the only three things you can do with these bonds. You just can't go out and cash it out and say, go buy a car or something or take a trip to Europe or whatever. No. Those are the three things you can do it. If it's used for any other purposes, it's going to be taxed at a higher rate. So I guess you could use it, but, you're going to get taxed the hell out of it. So, it's a concept of baby bonds, which two states, California, Connecticut, and the District of Columbia have introduced as a way to reduce gaps between wealthy people and poor people. And it will be handled by third parties and investment firms. The bill would require at least one parent to produce a Social Security number with work authorizations, meaning the United States citizen. Here we go. Children born to the same categories of people in the United States. Immigrants, though, children born in the United States from immigrants, they're going to be excluded. But if you're a white privileged white person born in the United States from white Americans, then you're okay, and you got the Social Security card and all that. So any other people, they're going to be totally investigated to make sure that you're legal to even take part in this. So now about this Trump bond thing, most investors and people who are familiar with what's going on here and saying, go ahead and set this account up for your child if they fall within the age range and take the $1,000 from the Trump administration. It's a good deal. But they're also saying, do not put any more cash into this bond other than what the government is giving you, because there are other ways that you can use your money for investments and earn more of a return. So the return on the investment from this particular bond is not really a good deal. Because they said there's other ways that you can earn more return and interest on other ways of investing if you're going to put money into it. I mean, the whole idea is, of course, to set this up. They give you $1,000 and they think parents will put more money into this, and then the child's going to have more money. But if you talk to actual true brokers who have been looking at this bond that Trump has come up with, the baby bonds, they're saying it's not really a good deal. But do take advantage of that $1,000, because with the interest over 18 years that's on that, the kid's going to get some good cash. But they're recommending that you look at other ways of putting your money into the account before you get all crazy on that. And, I can appreciate that. You want to spend your money wisely before you go putting your hard-earned money into something. And, I mean, this is a good deal. Nobody's saying that it isn't. But, do your homework before you put any more money in it. But, again, something else that Trump's coming up with his name on it. He wants his name on a lot of stuff. He wants his name on the Kennedy Center. He wants his name on the ballroom. He wants his name on some arches that he wants to build now across from the Washington Monument. He loves having his name on stuff because this is a guy who's got an ego that's as tall as Mount Everest, if not higher. So anyway, there's your news for this week on the Right Has Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garden. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I do look forward to your comments. Until then, you try to have a good week. Take care.